Hi again, everyone. What I have here today is a Ginseng Ficus, one of these little ficus trees that are often sold as bonsais, where it's basically a giant bulging root with a few leaves on top and nothing else. This one, I decided I'm going to try to make it into something that actually follows the rules of bonsai somewhat. And we're going to start today by putting it into a larger bonsai pot, which it pretty obviously needs. We're also going to choose a new front because first, there's a huge pruning scar right here that the tree came with and was obviously used to create the giant root bulge. And second, the existing front doesn't show the tree off to its best advantage. So first, let's try to pull it out of the pot. Well, it came right out there, so that was pretty simple. And we'll move the old pot, and then we'll work on the tree a little bit here. I don't really need a big cultivator for this tree because it's so small, so I'm just going to use my little soil rake and rake the soil and the roots out just a bit. Now, as all ficuses do, this has very powerful roots, so getting it to establish itself in the new pot is going to be really a very simple matter. So we're just going to go around, break up the edges of the root ball, and sort of get it ready for the pot. The other thing is, since we're going into a somewhat larger pot, we don't really need to prune the roots very much except to take off anything that's really a little too long. Now I'm just going to rake a little soil out from underneath the base here, and then we'll just give some of the longer and more ragged roots a little bit of a trim here. A ficus is a tropical tree, and these can be repotted in hot weather, and they generally should. In fact, if you repot them in cold weather, they don't do well. They tend to go back into dormancy, and it's not good for the tree. So let's set the tree aside. Oops, it's going to fall over here, but that's alright. We'll just lean it on the old pot, and then we'll set the new pot on the turntable. And we'll take some of my pre-prepared soil here, my usual mix. You'll notice I put drainage screens in the pot already and wired them in, and also put in a wire to anchor the tree. In this particular case, I think the tree is going to need it for two reasons. One is we're going to repot it at an angle, and the second one is it's probably not going to balance because there's so much weight above the soil. So let's take the tree now, and I'm going to look at it from the new front and see what I need to do with it in order to get it in. Now, the new front is going to be somewhere in here like this, and it's also going to tilt somewhat from where it was, something like this, so that it shows off the shape of the root base to a much better advantage. So we need to take a little bit of this corner off it, because that's going to be pretty far above the soil once we get the tree in its new potted position. And the second thing is we need to mound the soil up a little bit on this side. Now I'm just taking a look at the tree and getting it into its new position, and I see we still have a little bit of interference with the pot from the corners of the old soil, so we'll work on that again, and then we'll come back in here. And this actually looks somewhat close. I want to tilt it over quite a bit in order to kind of disguise the rather extreme root bulge and make it look more like a natural root flare. So that's why we're doing as much work as we are here. Now I'm going to put a little more soil underneath what's going to be the high side of the tree in its new planted position. And then we're going to tie it down with our wire. Now in this case, I'm going to encircle the trunk in order to tether it in really well. This particular variety of tree will not just spread roots under the ground, it'll send down aerial roots as well. And I expect it should fill this pot with roots fairly quickly. Now I'm just going to backfill underneath the low side of the tree. And then we'll keep filling in soil. Now you may notice I'm covering up some of the beautiful moss growth that was on it before, and that's not going to be a problem. The moss will reappear once the tree gets established in the pot, and it'll cover up the surface of the soil pretty quickly as long as the tree is kept well watered. So we're just going to kind of fill the soil in, compact it down here. And then one last thing I want to do, I didn't do this earlier, but we have a branch that is not going to work as part of the new design. So we're going to take that off, and we will make a cutting out of that. And then we've got one or two other little branches that are kind of growing upward. So we're going to trim those back a little bit and encourage growth in other directions. And then we're going to take down the top of the tree just slightly. This is actually the second time I've pruned this tree this year. And this one, those two branches are kind of doubled. So we'll take those. Yeah, I think we'll take that one off too. Okay, we're getting very close to finishing this. Now you can see the tree has a much more dynamic appearance. It has an upper trunk that's clearly in the right place, and when it grows out, the pruning scar will be hidden. So what we'll do now is we'll finish this video the way I always finish with potting, with a good watering of the tree. And we'll just take our hose and our shower nozzle, and we'll run the water in gently at first so that we don't float off too much of the organic part of the soil. And then we'll keep going with it until it runs out the bottom of the pot, which it's doing pretty nicely now. So let's take a look at a 360-degree view of the tree, nice and slow. And this is where the tree is for now, and hopefully with some additional growth up top, it's going to be headed towards being a much better bonsai. Thank you very much for watching, folks.